Hello. Today, I just want to briefly talk about the Rahul Gandhi defamation case. Now, what's going to happen? Well, on the basis of the recent judgment given by the Sessions Court, the charges, the quantum of punishment has not been reduced. The sentence on Rahul has not been suspended. So, uh, what's the reason for that? Well, if you go through the judgment, and by the way, the judge is seems to be pretty smart. You know, he had appeared for Amit Shah about 20 years ago, or a little bit less than that, 17. You know, he is smart. And essentially, the Gujarat High Court orders, which had previously, I think, had quite a, a big impact on the outcome of the case. That is really reinforced in the type of reasoning shown by the judge. That it's basically, both in the case of the Gujarat High Court, which had intervened on two separate occasions, because, the local judge was basically wanted to find an excuse to dismiss the case. But essentially, the High Court is quoting Supreme Court judgments. They want to be in the good books of the Supreme Court. They don't want to be overruled by the bench and, to be scolded. And I think that's really all that's happening here. Now, don't forget that the entire problem that Rahul is facing, or that Indian politicians are facing, this problem really arises through two rather rather strange judgments, I would say, advisedly. First is 2013 Lily Thomas, where basically the court is saying that the president has no discretion, the election commission has no discretion. If so, any judge, you know, not a high court judge. In the case of Indira Gandhi, when she was disqualified, it was quite a high level. But basically, Supreme Court is saying anybody, any district magistrate or anybody, and that too, just for words. Criminal defamation is just words. It's not any action. And it's easy in the modern world. It's easy to prove that somebody said something because there are cameras and there are smartphones and the evidence is it's electronic evidence. But there again, there's a Supreme Court judgment which makes that much more easy to admit and to make and it becomes admissible. So it's rather bizarre that the Supreme Court made a decision which really put a huge amount of power into the hands of people who in India are not highly regarded, and that is the lower judiciary. There is no tradition of respect for these people, and it's always the case that things, if you have money, you go to the High Court. The High Court doesn't give you satisfaction, you go to the Supreme Court. And it's as though the Supreme Court likes chances or opportunities to show that it's smarter than the High Court and to, say, you stupid people, you didn't know about this. The Supreme Court is often very, very stupid, stupider than the High Court. So what's really happening now is that the Rahul's advocate has said that, look, he has cast it in terms of that Rahul is being pressurized. He's being threatened with jail so as to get him to apologize. So he's saying, no, first, justice must be done. In other words, my client must be acquitted on the basis of what he has claimed, without any sort of examination of it. It should just prima facie, you know, you should just simply ignore everything mentioned in the two Gujarat High Court orders where certain actions by the district judge, by the Surat CGM had been quashed. Ignore all that. Ignore all the precedents cited from Supreme Court, etc., and don't pressurize this boy to make apology, because he was not going to make apology. This is what it's about. It's about the apology. And this is, it's like this case is about a pressure to make an apology. And this really takes notice of what Rahul himself has said, that, somehow that if you are a Gandhi, you can never apologize. If your name is Savarkar, yes, you can apologize. But if you're Gandhi, and if you're a Gandhi and you say Modis are rubbish, they're thieves, how can you be made to apologize for that? In 2016, the court had rejected the arguments put forward by Rahul, Kejriwal, and Subramaniam Swamy. And the case, it's the 2016 judgment. And the fact is, Supreme Court has admonished Rahul against collective denunciation. So, on the basis of what the Supreme Court has said, whether it's Lily Thomas, whether it's other judgments regarding the admissibility of electronic evidence, whether it's a question of jurisdiction, always what the Supreme Court is saying is that so long as there's application of mind by the judge, there's considerable powers of considerable discretionary powers. It's being a judge, even quite a low-level judge, is not like being a clerk. And this is really the thrust of the judicial doctrine, and normally that would be fine. Normally that's fine. It makes sense. The problem is that the Supreme Court has taken on duties, has taken on rights, entitlements, not provided for in the Constitution. That, you see, the Constitution says that if it's a question of a legislator being barred, these are the procedures, and it's the Constitution, Indian Constitution, like that of other Anglo-Saxon jurisdictions, it really places, it's about self-policing. It's about legislatures encouraging parliamentary behavior or discouraging unparliamentary language. That's how things work. Now, there's a separate question. The 2016 decision was about criminal defamation, that it should be decriminalized. But since then, the center itself went to the bench and said, we want to rethink sedition. So clearly, things are changing. Criminal defamation does look, just simply, it shouldn't be a criminal offense in the world of Twitter and so on. If sedition is gone, why should criminal defamation remain? Other thing is that Supreme Court refused to punish Prashant Bhushan by sending him to jail for contempt. So, in practice, just as sedition has fallen into abeyance, just as contempt may be falling into abeyance, I'm not sure. Recently, there's a case of a high court trying to force two senior civil servants by saying, we'll throw you in jail for contempt if you don't spend a sanction the money to help retired judges. It's rather self-serving. There, the Supreme Court, they put a stay on it. Let's see what happens. But the bottom line is that it's easy for the administration to actually ignore contempt of court proceedings against specific officers. They can be transferred, or they can be shown not to have, in law, the position, the basis upon which the judgment was made. So, this is overreach on the part of the bench. If Rahul digs in, he pulls out his horns and he charges straight at the Supreme Court, which he is entitled to do. He can easily do so. I think even I wouldn't be surprised if Supreme Court, if Chandrachud, don't forget that Chandrachud's father was CJI. Chandrachud's father had made the mistake of putting Sanjay Gandhi in jail over Kissa Kursi Ka, over the film Kissa Kursi Ka. And then Indira Gandhi got back in power, and Bhutta Singh and so on, they were saying, we'll bloody impeach you. But impeaching is okay. Congress party is a fascist organization which slaughters people. It slaughtered Sikhs. And Indira Gandhi liked Sikhs. The youth Congress leaders who actually were involved in killing Sikhs, they grew up with Sikhs. It was like, it would be mad. It would be like saying to Boris Johnson that you're against red-haired women with big knockers. uh, I, I don't know why I said that. I suppose I said that because I I don't like I I I I'm a man. I watch a lot of porn. I'm sorry. This is very clearly an interruption of this beautiful podcast which is occurring, but it is due to Modani and the use of technology by the whoever owns Adanis have influenced the YouTube owners, or maybe YouTube has been bought by Adani. Because, as everybody knows, I am a transgender person from Sweden who is completely incapable of showing any sexual attraction or misogynistic sentiment with respect to women of any type, whether they have red hair with big boobs. I don't get excited by that. No, or in fact, is anyway. So finally, before this degenerates any further, they let us settle this matter as to what is the law and what will happen next. Well, the choices are that either Rahul apologizes. I think he won't do that, but he may. It's in his party's interest and in his own interest that he does not fight Wayanad. Rather, it's better if there's a by-election in Wayanad, and if his candidate succeeds, that shows that he could retain Wayanad. So that's smart. Other thing is that for 2024, he can always get out of the prison sentence because, that's cruel and unusual when, first offense and so on and so forth. So that's not going to happen. Though, even there, after all, going to prison is prestigious for a politician. And, it's a great photo opportunity. So we don't know about that. But the bottom line is that if there is a so-called disqualification which can always be removed, because, the bench should reverse it or, come on. We know how these things work. By the way, there was, very fundamental flaws in the both in 2013 decision, 2016 decision. And it's quite possible, in fact, there are pending cases waiting for a bigger bench, a constitutional bench. So these things can all be reversed. Two judge bench decision, come on, it's fragile. So, the law is pretty damn flexible. And so, bottom line is that the degrees of freedom have increased for Congress Party, for Kharge. And far from this being beneficial to BJP, I mean, it has the potential to harm. But, after all, these guys aren't stupid. they're making what hay that they can. And, because of Rahul's sort of Baimanism, they temple hopping and all that kind of thing does piss off OBC. Because the fact is that Congress preferred Ashraf Muslims to their own co-religionist OBCs, who are never backward, by the way. Patels, are the Patel backward? Go far. No. So that kind of nonsense really is a poison, and Rahul should eliminate it, unless he is seen as being like a lightning rod to get rid of, to sort of focus all the what we may call the agit-prop of the subaltern and of the young people who don't have the jobs. Then there is a narrative here, and Kharge is taking advantage of that. He's saying that, look, if you are a graduate, you don't have a job, we're going to give you money. So that's Kharge's. This is a targeted benefit. It's not like what happened in 2019, where you had a scattergun approach. In fact, Rahul was making big promises. Should have been attractive, but it wasn't well targeted enough. In other words, what you have here is what economists call Ricardian equivalence. That basically, you can't fool the people if you say we'll give you lots of money. They say, yeah, the only way that'll happen is if you rob us and then give us back our own money. It's a Ricardian equivalence. So I think with Kharge, this is a guy who's 8 years old. He knows politics. He knows what people will believe. And let's see whether this supposed puppet of the dynasty is actually pulling some strings, or maybe there's somebody else. And if Kharge is the new Ahmed Patel, why not? Why not? It could be. Then don't write off the possibility of UPA 3 next year itself. Could happen.